Mona, when you smoke, like, do you wrap your shirt around the blunt?
The last time he tried this, right?
I'm just asking.
I don't, you're not supposed to like share certain stuff
Crack
about
'em,
your
yo.
balls, but
Crack 'em.
I chumped him last time. I was like, nigga, don't play with me like that, boy.
Crack
you feel
'em.
me? Because he sat down like, oh, you smell like crack mixed. This bitch so poor she smokes crack and blacks and wax. I'm like, cut that out. So he couldn't wait to get this whole I stink off. Them niggas out there smoke blunts, they smell funny. I don't say nothing.
You smell great. Take that. Huh? Take that. How's that for some support?
Joe Budden calls Mona a weed head. Yeah, that's right. On the last episode of the Joe Budden podcast, Mona was called out for her smoky behavior. Now, this has been something that has been explored on message boards, mainly the Alley and even the Reddit. This idea that Mona's coming to the podcast blasted and high and all of this other stuff. But for Joe Budden to go up there and make it an actual storyline, I don't think Mona enjoyed that too much. Now, what he said is, you smell like weed, girl. And Mona, usually she takes everything in stride. Usually she's right back with the joke. But this time, she was like, oh, man, this is how narratives are. How could you do this? And I think that is a clear-cut sign that she did not like where Joe Budden took that. Now, a couple months ago or a couple shows ago, Mona also called Joe like a dust head, so she kind of introduced that level of joking, which is why you gotta be careful sometimes, is that like sometimes when you introduce something, you open the floodgates, and the floodgates is not something you really want to be open sometimes. Now, this comes on the heels of Mona doing a podcast appearance at the Black Effect Festival. Remember that? She was there having a good time introducing the show.
I am Don't Call Me White Girl from the Don't Call Me White Girl podcast, and this is my man.
Now, one thing Joe accurately pointed out was that Mona only referenced the pod that she does and not the JBP. But I don't know if Joe Budden can have too much ownership of what she identifies as outside of the pod, but I will also think it's telling that she did not mention the JBP, largely because she's been on other platforms saying the Joe Budden podcast is the biggest podcast she's ever been on.
I'm on the biggest podcast I've ever been on. This is the most money I've ever made on a podcast. It's the most successful podcast in my space. It's the Joe Budden show, but it's like, it's such a big deal. Like, just doing that shit for a month, I realized so many things I was doing wrong with my podcast. And that's like priceless, bro. And when I was on Minnesota Game, and I won't share why I thought this stuff, you could probably assume why. Minnesota Game was the #1 podcast, #1 urban music podcast in the country. It never has, $1 million worth of game has never beat Joey on numbers, ever. So I thought that was huge. This shit is like, what the
I think she just knows that much like $1 million worth of game, the Joe Budden podcast could go away. And what is she doing at the Black Effect Network? I know people say that she's cool with Charlemagne and that she was in consideration for the final role at the Breakfast Club, which I think would have been rough for her considering how Just Hilarious was just on Angela Yee saying that, you know, she didn't really know what it would be like and all that. She doesn't like waking up early. Could you imagine Mona having to wake up early? Oh my God, she would have been fired from the Breakfast Club like within the first 4 weeks. There's also the other funny part of this is that Mona released footage of her going to the show, and it seemed like she was getting high as a kite on her way to the podcast. And here is that video.
Nigga always gotta lose me. We be on the road, we Harlem World, the lights. Now red man. Fuck, we on Harlem Shake.
So there it is. Joe Budden broke the case wide open, and we will have to see how Mona enjoys this moving forward. I just want to shout out the people that put me onto this and had the video clipped and ready. Engineer and Dub, follow their Twitter because they were able to, you know, kind of draw a lot of attention to this. I mean, on Twitter, these clips got millions and millions of views. Also, Mona was kind of, you know, the star of this episode in some regard. She looked like she didn't really want to be there. I think the traveling from wherever she's from, Delaware to New Jersey, is a lot. I believe she travels hours. If I had to just go by when I did the interview with her, she was like an hour and a half late. I think like 2.5 hours late. So, she just has an issue with time. However, she did something very interesting. She called out the Nicki Minaj fans live on the podcast, and it was on the heels of Mark Lamont Hill being scared and tiptoeing, and also Joe Budden being scared and tiptoeing. So she straight up said, I don't give a damn about no Nicki Minaj fans.
Other women artists in particular, though, have very rabid fan bases that dox, that attack people.
They got my boy scared to even
Sure.
say it.
As you should
Scared
be.
to-
Ain't that
Scared to
brave?
say these bitches.
Yes.
What type of
Yo,
shit
what a
you on?
fucking... Look at Mark.
We from Philly.
Okay.
Them barbs.
Oh, shit.
So Mona just doesn't care. And I think that was kind of, interesting. But I also respect the fact that she just mentioned it straight up, because it makes the podcast look too scary. I'm not saying you got to challenge the barbs. I don't think that's wise. But at least say their name. So I think Mona did the most extreme and Mark did the most scary behavior. And we will have to see how that pans out. But let me know what you think about Joe Budden dissing Mona in this regard. I do feel like this is something that Mona does not want to be mentioned, especially as she grows older and wants to change the perception of her career, because the perception right now, coming off the heels of $1 million worth of game and even the Joe Budden podcast, which is, it's not really the perception. It's actually what's true. She be late a lot. She be, she comes late during the actual taping of the pod, so much so that members of the podcast are now claiming that they are not mad that she's late. That is hilarious to me, because, this is really bad when your incompetencies are so egregious that the people around you have to pretend like they're okay with it, knowing damn well they're not okay with it. And not only are they not okay with it, they could never get away with the same behavior. Imagine if Mona wasn't the only person to show up late. What if 3-4 people showed up late, and that egregiously late? When Mona arrived late to my studio, about 2.5 hours late, I thought, damn, this is what she be doing on the pod. So it's not good, but I just went on that little tangent because it's not really perception if you're engaging in the reality of what is up. With that said, follow me on Instagram, The Stop TV. Follow me on Twitter, The Stop TV. Make sure you tap in with my Patreon, The Stop. Also, my second channel, Quiet Part Out Loud. We got the Oskino interview. We got the DeHaven interview. We got the Mona interview. We got the Ms. Jones interview. So that channel is doing really, 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 really well. And I'm proud of launching a separate channel that I think is, this channel is largely about reacting to the Joe Budden podcast. We have done other content. We have done Ebro. We have done Mero. We have done The Breakfast Club. We have done Mandy and Weezy. We have done a lot more. But the other channel, it's a different type of vibe. We're really trying to capture hip-hop dialogue, get into stories of years past, and even embark on hip-hop debate. And we got some content coming there about hip-hop debate, because I feel like sometimes nowadays, especially in light of the Drake and Kendrick battle, everybody's arguing online, but they do it in Twitter Spaces, or they do it on Instagram, or they post these memes, and it's fine. But a lot of these folks are too, I don't want to say it, but cowardly to debate in person, because they know the Twitter talking points won't play out in real life. So that's what that channel is all about. All right, y'all. I'm Danny from The Stop. Peace.